Hello everyone, I'm Caroline and today I'm going to be making some wall decor. And I decided that I was going to paint this board first and I was going to paint it all on my own, and I thought, oh, I can use this while I'm saying hello to everybody. So hello, welcome. If this is your first time here, how lovely for you to join me. I'm going to paint this and then get on with the next project because this is going to take a while to dry. I'm hoping I'm not going to need 2 coats. It's just a piece of hardboard and some chalk paint. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to be attaching something that's a bit lighter, and I want the option not to have to paint over the top of that, which sounds very confusing. Sorry about the plopping, but you'll see what I mean when I actually come to assembling it. I'm really looking forward to today's crafts. They're going to be a nice change. If you need to change up your deco in the spring, if you just fancy getting away from all your old wall deco, brightening things up, or just adding to it, or making them just for the fun of it, then you're going to enjoy this video. Right, I'll carry on painting and I'll get back to you when I'm finished and we'll start with another project. For this project, I've got lots of bits of Amazon bag. You can use some brown wrapping paper. You can use some recycled. I wouldn't use a glossy wrapping paper for this. And the first thing we need to do is to thicken these up. You could use a very thin cardboard, but I'd like to do this on a budget because I do like to craft on a budget. So out with my Mod Podge. And then glue them in half. Now there is no strict rule to how big these should be. I've cut them about 5 by 10 because I knew I was going to fold them, and 5 by 5 with the embossing machine, what's mine called? The Sizzix, had to check. Then I just find it's a nice size, convenient to work with. And if you're using an embossing folder and you try putting too much in, I find it a piddle and a potch. So I do it this way. Look at that, that makes a really nice piece of thicker card. And I'm going to get my ruler because I can't find my bone folder. Oh, I know where it is. There we go. I made myself a little trolley to keep everything in. And I forgot I put my bone folder in it. Just give it a bit of a run. And you don't want to let this dry. So I'm just going to do a couple. And then we go on to the next stage because we're going to emboss these. And when you emboss them, sometimes if you haven't done a good glue job, or if the glue is dry already, it can split the papers again. We don't want that. So we're going to put them through the embosser while they're still slightly damp. So it's not like, oh, quick, get them in the embosser. You've got a couple of minutes. So I'll do some, and then I'll turn the camera off while I finish and we can move on to the next stage. So I'll just glue one more bit of this and then we can get on with the embossing, and then I'll finish off. Have you got an embosser? I have heard, and very interesting, that you can use, I use it to emboss or to cut. And apparently, and we're going to have to try this one day, you can just buy the dies that you use with an embosser, and you can roll over them with a rolling pin, and it'll cut the paper. Now, I haven't tried it, so I can't guarantee it, but it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Right, let's put all those out of the way, just for now. And then out with my Sizzix. Oh, it's a big lump. And I should have shims. Where do my shims gone? I'm forever losing things. All a shim is a piece of paper that I put in, and it just adds some height if it needs it to get the proper pressure. So I've got a couple of folders here. I got, it's a Christmas one, and I got a roses one there. That's a pretty one. You can do this completely on whatever theme you want to do. I've got this one. This is off a Cuttlebug, but I think they're all interchangeable. So I'm going to pop this in. Will it cover 4 of those? Just about. I think I'll go for the bottom ones. Just pop it in there. Like that. And see how much more convenient than if you're trying to get it right to the top. You could just fiddle about and juggle it into place. Then, I got to remember now, what do? I put my thick fat one down. Then I put the next one down. You can see they mark terribly. It doesn't make any difference to them, but they do mark. I was horrified when I first used it. Oh no, I damaged it. Push this through. Well, oh, it's very, very stiff when you've got something this thick. There we go. I'm not sure how much is too much pressure, but you need a fair bit for this. Take it out of the folder. And look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? It's almost like a faux leather effect. So I'm going to do a couple more of these now. So we'll do another one of those. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll do a flower one, or a floral one. What should we use? Do this one, or I can do this one. Do this one. So let's see what this one's done. Oh yes, look at that. Now the more pressure, the deeper the embossing, but as I say, be careful. I'm probably putting a little bit too much pressure on my machine, but it's coping, so I'm okay with that. So I'm going to turn the camera off now. I'm going to make up all the other squares, and then I'll show you the next stage. Just a little tip, if you're going to be doing this, then do a couple more as well, and you've got them for other projects, because it's quite an effort by the time you glue everything, run everything through, paint it up. So that's what I like to do. Right, let's get on with this. I've cut up most of my papers, but I've got one left, and I'm going to show you how to do this without actually becoming a bodybuilder because I did have this set too high. So what I'm doing now is I've got my little folder, pop my piece of paper in. Now you don't have to use thick paper like this if you don't want to. And you can even use foil if you want to do that. It gives a lovely effect. And what I'm doing is popping that down on my tray, and then I've got James Dyson very kindly lent me his book cover. Isn't he a lovely man? And I'm going to pop that in there, folded 4 times. Then I put this on, and that is the perfect size. But watch how easy this goes through now. This is a lot easier. It's not quite as deep. I'm trying to get it all lined up. It's not quite as deep, but look at that. I can do that with one hand, one finger, and it folds through nicely, or rolls through nicely. So you don't have to put your machine under such tension. All my machines, when they arrive, you can hear them quaking and go, oh, she's going to break me. I'm very heavy-handed with my craft implements, I suppose you'd call them. And now, that's fairly deep. It's not as deep as the originals, but it's not bad. And this is what I got. An assortment. I don't have many actual embossing folders, so I just use the ones I have. Now, this one was a thin one, so I put a bit on each edge. I think that's quite interesting. And this one was a bit thin and floppy, wasn't it? That didn't work very well. That was one of my trial pieces before I put Mr. Dyson into my machine to give it a little bit more depth. So we leave that. And everything's come out quite nicely. And I think there's one style I didn't show you. This one here. As you can see, that's quite pretty. I think it's supposed to be snowflakes, do you think? I don't know. I thought it was pretty, so I used it anyway. So now we need to colour these. We've got plenty of them, and I covered my work surface because it's always good to cover your work surface. And you've got 2 options. Well, you've got a few options. I'll show you some of the options I'm not going to use on these ones. My rejects. So I'm going to get out my gilding paste. And this would be much more effective if it wasn't a reject and wasn't quite so thin. But you can just pick up the highlights. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And I think that works so well with brown paper. I don't think you need to have any posh paper or anything like that. And look, that is a work of art all on its own, I think. Maybe I'm being a bit optimistic, but I love that. You could pop that in a little frame and you've got yourself something wonderful. I'll show you another alternative. You can get some antiquing wax. Now, we're really going to struggle with this one because there's hardly any embossing on it. You can just come over it with some antiquing wax. It's picking up more of the embossing now. But you can see there, that is a completely different effect adding the gold. It grunges it up almost. So if you're looking for a grungy look, or even a leather look, you can see the difference there. Well, I hope you can. I don't know if my camera is picking that up. Of the 2, I prefer the gold. But we're going to use neither of those. I've got these inks. I bought them years ago in a job lot of art materials. And, well, some of them were completely dry. The little squidgy squeezer pipette thing on there is slowly rotting away. So it's a matter of time before that goes completely and they dry up. So I wanted to come up with a reason to use them. And I think I've got one. So I'm going to take all these out of the way and start doing a few of the colours I want and then see how it develops from there. So I'm going to try this Raw Umber liquid acrylic colour by Winsor & Newton. So let's see what this is like. Take a little bit off there. Oh, I like that. I know the paper is already brown, but I think putting ink on, it's not as thick as if you're putting the paint on unless you water it down, obviously, or if you're using watercolour. And I want to get some really rich colours going. I think that's quite cottage core. They reckon they're deep colours, jewel colours. This year's trend. Then again, it seems to be that it's basically anything your granny had. Do you remember the granny square blankets? All that sort of thing apparently is coming in again. Just when they've got us all to get pale colours, they're saying, no, now you've got to get jewel colours. That's why I always just use the colours I like. I don't worry about fashion. It costs you a fortune, and then before you know it, you're out of fashion again. I think I'll do a small one in that colour. Don't want too much of it because it's quite dark. I want to add some interesting colours on the other pieces. This is so fun and therapeutic. You can see the embossing coming out a little bit. Not as much as if you're just highlighting it, but when you're painting over like this, it definitely does make a difference. So I'm going to do this one green, but then we're going to try something a little different on this. So brace yourself. It might work, it might not. I'm going to get a little bit of this ochre, or ochre. I don't know how you pronounce it. I don't think the dropper is going to work on this, is it? No. I can drop some bits on, see what will happen. Just play about with things. Not too keen on it. What do you think? Oh, I don't know. It's growing on me. Just chuck in a little bit of colour on like that. What should we do? Should we leave it or should we rub it in? Let's blotch it. See what happens when we blotch. Oh, look, I've got a little spider. Come on, Mr. Spider, off you go. Don't get in my ink, you'll get stuck. Oh, I like that with a little bit of different colour blotched on. Oh, yes, I'm going to blotch a little bit of that on this one as well. You never know until you start doing something what it's going to look like. Little blotches around the place. Oh, this one's virtually all gone, and the bit that is in there looks quite gloopy in the bottom. And now, oh no, still got green on it. Oh well, that one's got a bit of green as well. A bit more, I think. Oh, here we go. In for a penny, in for a pound. And then just carry on like this with all your different pieces. What I'll do, I think, is I'll do one with some red on next. You can see what it looks like to have something. I think I've got, what have I got? I've got crimson and I've got magenta. Oh, I may do magenta. Oh no, this isn't just any magenta. This is processed magenta, whatever that means. Oh, I like that. Yep, just dab those in a bit. They're a bit too dark. There we go. Now up with the magenta. Give it a shake, see if that helps. I've never read the instructions. No health labelling required. Use an airbrush technical pen, brush and pen. Shake well before use. Ah, there you go. Shake well before use, don't forget. Right. Oh. Now I may not be able to get the top off this one. It's so firmly dried. And if I use my pliers, I may crack the lid. But then again, if I can't get in anyway, I might as well just go for it. Now, my pliers won't go round the lid, so that's not going to work. Okay, we're going to give up on magenta. Let's hope the red opens. These really are very, very old. Okay, let's try chopping the top off. Do not do this at home. There we go. Ah, there. Simple as that. And then I'll put some cling film over the top and it shouldn't dry out. And if it does, I couldn't use it anyway, so that'll be fine. Like that. And then I'm going to get my ochre. I'm going to drop some of that on as well. I'll give it a little bit more liquid to work with. Whoops. Maybe not quite that much, but never mind. Have fun with it. Ooh. Oh, I quite like that anyway. Fortunately, I'm very easy to please. Get any more of this out? There. And I'll get back to you when I finish throwing around ink and making a terrible mess and finding out how many of my bottles are completely useless. So these are all my pieces. Now they're dry and they're a lovely texture. Oh, they just feel so tactile. I just love playing with thickened paper like this. So I torn the edges off that weren't quite finished, got them to a reasonable workable size. Well, I've left that one a bit bigger so I can cut that to size. And I'm going to take this board. Now, it was an old blackboard, world's best granddad, thank you for, whatever. So I'm going to put that on the back. And the fact that this sticks out doesn't matter. I wonder if it'll come off. That's got me thinking. No, I'd rather it on. I'll show you why when we come to putting the backing on. So now I've got some Mod Podge and my brush. And we're going to cover this with these textured pieces. Now, you can either just go for it and stick them on as you're working your way around, or you can pre-plan, make sure they all fit nicely, decide what colours are going to go best where, and you may cut some down to being much smaller or leave some much bigger. It all depends what sort of look you fancy. And this is purely expressive. There's no right or wrong way to do this. You just pop them on wherever you want them to be. So I make a start by putting some Mod Podge down on here. And then pop that on there. Right up to the edges. It may take a little bit of holding down because they do tend to curl. You could always use hot glue if you want to. I get the feeling that's going to make such a lumpy, bumpy texture underneath that it'll be noticeable. I could be wrong. So now I'm going to come, I think I'll come down there with our green one. And then we'll see if we can get all the way to the edge without having to cut any. It's not likely, but we'll give it a try. And it doesn't matter anyway because these are so easy to cut. Pop that one on there. And now we're going to stand my Mod Podge on there. There, because it's bending up a little bit. And will this fit exactly down the side there? Oh, it will. Look at that. You'd swear that I got it measured perfectly. So I'm going to hold that down, put some more Mod Podge on here. Comes down further, doesn't it? So I'll put more down, even further. You can't really see very well with that in the way, can you? I'm going to put the nice clean edge to the outside, like that. And I think this is going to be a case of weighing things down because they are quite bendy. Right, so this is going to look like a mess until we finish. So I'll pop that on there. I know, just humour me. Pop that on there and then we can carry on. So, what should we do? Should we put a big piece in the middle there? Is that the colour I want to go there? What about some of this green there? No, I think I'm going to put brown there. And, right, I'm not going to put a double square there. So I'm going to show you how easy this is to tear. Use a straight edge. I'm using my metal ruler. And just tear. And even the sound of that tearing is just lovely. I love it. So I'll pop that there. Pop that on there. And then move my Mod Podge on top of there too. Right, now we need something that fits in our middle bit. That's the same. It's going to fit, but we don't want exactly the same thing. What have we got here? What about this orange? No, too narrow. So I'm going to cut something. And I'm going to go for this orange. So let's have a look how big this needs to be. About there-ish. And it doesn't matter if you don't get it perfectly right. Just do your best. And, oh, that's a bit too wide. We need to shrink that a bit in half. Oh, I'll tell you what I can do. I do it that way and then cut that to there. And then that should fit in perfectly. Yep, that's going to be fine. More Mod Podge. Pop on my piece of paper. Oh, like that. And let's have a look what's going on next. And try to get, if you're going to go for a variety of colours, try to get the mix. Try not to put too many together. So down here we got orange, brown, orange. Let's put some green on. Let's come across. Oh, look, that's just short. What can we do with a bigger green? We'll do that. Take a little bit off the edge. Make glue down. Do you love the noises that you get when you're playing with paper? I do. I love it. Now, you can cut the edges of these if you want them to be completely crisp. I'm not bothered by that. If anything, I quite like... Oh, on here. I quite like the messy edges, the rough edges, because that's the reason why I've got these all looking a little bit tatty and old rather than crisp and brand new from a shop. And we've got to do even more to give them a bit of atmosphere soon. Right, so on the bottom there, we've got, oh, this one's got a Bambi on it. I don't really think it's suiting the picture, so I'm going to come down there with another brown one. Oh, these are really bubbling up today. There. And we need more weight. Thank you. My little ladybird just volunteered to be a helper. So I'll carry on now. I'll get back to you when I'm done with my gluing here. So this is what I've ended up with. Now I turned this over the other side, cut around the very edge with a scalpel knife or an X-Acto knife, depending on what you call it. I'll just pop my glue gun on a second. And now I'm going to take this, which is Dovecraft Premium Pigment Ink Pad. And I'm going to go over the top again because this is very stark and I want to do something that ties everything in. So I'm just going to go over all the highlighted parts. Now you can do this with gold or silver and that looks pretty amazing. It's just I'm going to go for more of a sort of grungy, dated look. I don't want anything too bright or sparkly, so I'm just highlighting all the relief. I don't know if you can see there. And it just darkens things down. And because there's a bit of brown on every single piece, it ties it all in as being the same piece rather than lots of little pieces, if you see what I mean, even though obviously it is lots of little pieces. And then you can see white, but don't panic, we're going to sort that now. For this you can use a watercolour pencil. These Stabilo all are brilliant. And I'm just going to go in between the gaps with this. And I'm going to highlight all the edges. But then you can rub this with your finger. I haven't got that sharp enough to get in that little gap. You need to sharpen it if you want to get right into tiny little gaps. And go on, this almost is going to make it look like some sort of, I don't know, old alleyway or marketplace somewhere, in some exotic place. Or perhaps something Moorish. And go around every single join, marking it out. And because I put such a lot of ink pad on it, it's still quite damp, so it's making it nice and easy to smudge this up. Now if you've got a colour scheme you're going to and you want mainly blues or something like that, then you can just use a blue watercolour pencil. You can use some ink if you want to. I personally like the look that you get when you do this. I'm going to go along there as well, because even though this is the same piece, I think it'll look nice. And again, a brilliant way of expressing yourself. Do whatever you want to do to make it look nice. Make sure you put plenty of yourself into the piece. And these rub so nicely. And can you see already the difference it's making? It almost looks like strips of beautiful metal or something. I can never quite describe what this is supposed to look like. But I know it looks mystical and exotic, that sort of thing. I'm going to go down the crease there as well. I'll just keep going and going till eventually you've done every join. And you can imagine if you did this with like a blue highlight, it would be a bit like tiling your bathroom and then put in a blue grout in or a red grout or whatever colour you wanted to do. Never seen anybody with a red bathroom actually. Red kitchens have been in, but I don't think I've ever seen a red bathroom. That would be interesting. With this, don't rush. Enjoy the process because it really is therapeutic. Colour it in, rub it off. If you've missed a bit, go back over it. The biggest issue is the gaps. Now, you can also, if you wanted to, paint the background black. Or you could be much more accurate with your cutting. You could use a cutter and have them exactly the right size, things like that. But I like the roughness. And you can see that's not taken very long at all, and we're nearly there. Is this the sort of thing that you'd be tempted to make, or are you more into making florals, country style? I'd love to hear what your favourite style is. I've got certain styles I like, but I'm so eclectic. I couldn't actually limit myself. If I was somebody said to me, you're only allowed to do one style for the rest of your life, I really wouldn't know what to pick. Because there are so many beautiful aspects of so many styles. And now, oh, look at my mess on my table. I'm going to come around the edge. I'm going to try to get away without sharpening this, but I don't think I'm going to do it. Let's see if my watercolour pencil will do as good a job. I don't think it does as good a job as a Stabilo, but with a Stabilo, you're limited to black, and I think they do a red one. Right, I've sharpened that a bit. It was quicker than trying to work with my watercolour pencil. On it goes, smudge it in all the way around just to finish it and give it an edge. So it doesn't look like you've just chopped something out. And if you really like the look on this, you can smudge this over more places too. If you've got a little bit of interesting detail you really like, then go for it. Highlight it. And this is a sort of wall art you could put up in a passageway, or if you've got a bathroom with some lovely tiles, it would go in there, but you haven't got to just keep it for the wall. This would look beautiful if you did it on a piece of cardboard to make a cover for your journal, something like that. I quite fancy doing a journal covered in this. Whoops, got a little bit too black on there, but there you can see the effect it has. I quite like it anyway. I think I'm going to add a bit more black along there too. Oh, now that's it. You've started me now, look. I'm getting like I do with embossing, what do you call it, embossing gloss. What's the name of it? I can never remember. It's gilding polish, that's the one. I'm terrible for forgetting the name on that. So now I'm just going to turn this over, this shirt, and the one advantage I have now is that when this is behind the picture, it's not going to hold it forward because this big long piece here is going to hold it forward anyway. So it's not going to sort of sit wonky on the wall, if you see what I mean. Now on the edges, just a little something to show you. You can cut down this paper and put some all the way along the edge. But I think that it's going to be very difficult to get those edges completely glued down. And they might not look as professional as this. Now you can use your brown, you can use the mess that's still on your fingers from your Stabilo pencil and darken it down with that. No, I think I'll do that. It's on there anyway, so smudge it everywhere, and then it takes that stark edge off, or you can leave it stark. If you're going to leave it stark, be very careful not to get any on, because it does spread very easily. Oh, I think that's better already. Look at that for a bit of serendipity. I've got finger marks on it, and now it looks better. So that is my first piece of art. Now, you haven't got to have something as obvious as this hanging on the back. You can put one of those little ricky-racky hanger things. Depends what sort of look you're going for. So there we go, one finished, and now we can get on with that other project that I started right at the beginning when I was saying hello to you all. So here we are again, back at my piece of wood. There's the back of it. I've painted the front. If you want to be very efficient, you could paint the back too. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my Mod Podge out again. Get the lid off. And get my brush. And I've got some lace, and I'm going to stick the lace to this board. So I'm going to use Mod Podge for this. You may have a favourite adhesive you use. I would imagine a fabric adhesive would work. I've heard a lot of people say that fabric adhesive is actually good for paper because it doesn't crumple it. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not. It's something I'm going to try out. So have any of you used fabric adhesive on paper, and does it crinkle it up? I really would love to know. So now I've got some of these laces, and most of these have been sent to me by people, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And I've been looking for a way to display them so that they can all be seen together. Well, not all of them, I've got quite a few, but I want it to be the sort of thing that's almost like a display of different types of lace. So I thought I could put them on this, and it would look perfect. I don't know what you think. We'll find it at the end. And I'd also love to know whether you think that you would make, and whether you think that you would use, the first one I made, which is completely different to this one, but all the same sort of theory. It's just a matter of gluing things to a board in that sense. So I really would love to know what you think. I've got this pretty one here, and I want to hang this over the edge there, if you see what I mean. So you can still see, if I pick this up to the board now, you can still see lace right up to there. I don't want any board showing on this bit, but look at this lace. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I do love old lace. Some of the new laces are pretty, but there's something about an old lace, a vintage or an antique lace, that is amazing. Look at this one. I've just got so many pretty laces. So on with more Mod Podge. I wonder who came up with the name Mod Podge. Did they sit down, have a board meeting and say, what could we call our glue that'll make it sound completely different to glue? Or is it a reason why it's Mod Podge? I've never really looked into it, but I've always wondered. What a wonderful name for glue. It's a good reason to use it. I know it's silly, but I would love to go to Piggly Wiggly in America just because I love the name. I don't even know if I'd enjoy shopping there, but it just sounds so wonderful. I suppose it must be a salesman's dream. Mind you, whether I'd spend any money when I was there would be another matter. I love looking around shops, but I'm not so keen on paying full price for anything. So there's another piece of lace. Now this next piece of lace, I actually took off, I took this off a dress, a top type thing that I bought in the thrift store. And I liked it so much, I thought, there's going to be something I can use that for. And I actually think that it just changes up all the different beiges. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. What do you reckon? I'm putting this down there. Or do you think it stands out too much? The more I look at it now, the less I think it's a good idea. Why don't we take that off? No, don't like that. So I'm going to need to add on a little bit more of a different lace. So I'll use some of this one, I think. And some of these have got marks on just from years of storage, and perhaps pins that have been pushed in them have gone rusty. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm quite happy because it all adds to the look and the age of the item. A little bit of fluff off there. And this is such fun to do. There's absolutely no stress. Just do your best not have it apply too wonkily, and then you can always sort it out bit by bit. Try to bring things back into line as you go in, and then the last piece will just line up with the top. So let's put this piece on there. Right, I'm going to try and get those little edges touching there. Like that. Doesn't look very straight, does it? It'll be fine. Look at that. And already this looks like a sort of, I don't know what you would call it, an example board of different types of lace. And I think most of this is handmade. I used to make lace years ago, and I got myself a lace pillow and I tried it, but it's just so time consuming, and I have so many different crafts I want to get on with. I just found it was getting in my way, so I gave up on that. My lace pillow has been put up the attic, and one day I may come back to it. We'll see. And my last but one piece of lace. Ugh, there's a big blob in the middle of my Mod Podge. Look at that. Ugh. What am I going to do with that? Where would we be without wet wipes? Want that right the way along. You need to put enough to make sure this sticks well, but I don't think you need to really saturate it so that it drowns the lace, if you see what I mean. What is that little bit of plastic? I keep moving it and it appears somewhere else. Putting down the little flowers. And then it's a little bit wonky, but that doesn't matter because my last one is one of these dangly ones that's going to dangle over, so I can make sure that dangles in the right place. Really, in the ideal world, I would have ironed these dangles first. Look at that. They're a little bit messy. They're a little bit long, really, too. Do I want to use that and then hide so much of that lace? I don't think I do. Right, what I'm going to do, I've had an idea. First thing I'm going to do is cut off the edges of this so that it's all even right the way along. So I'm going to get out my good scissors. See, my scissors, my good scissors, have got this little tiny bit of red on it, which signifies danger. If I catch you using my fabric scissors on paper, you're in grave danger. The family are used to me now. They don't touch my scissors. You can use the edge of the wood. Whoops, it's falling off. You can use the edge of the wood as a straight edge. Definitely need to add a little bit more glue along the very edge pieces, I think, because they're lifting up a little bit. But now all the cutting's done. I can see what I'm doing. Oops, I'm falling off my chair where I've been leaning awkward. Right, let's have a look here now. That needs a little bit under there. And this corner definitely needs some. Scrunch that up again. I think I'll do the edge bits on these as well. I've never used these sort of laces together when I've been joining things on pictures. And there are a lot of other things you can do. If you just want to put layers and layers of different things, you can cut up papers, you can cut up fabric, you can use washi tape. So many different alternatives for this. I think I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of each of these floppy bits as well, because they are rather large and we don't want saggy floppy bits. I got myself this is self-adhesive ribbon, and I thought this would look lovely around the edge. I'm not sure, I think I'll go for this one here. It's the only problem when they put two on the same reel. Very fiddly and very annoying. I could just take this off. That's another R, double R. Have I got enough? 1, 2, and then one that way. Oh no, look at that. Right, so now, change of plan again. I'm going to use one on the top and bottom, and then a different one on the both sides. And I'm thinking this may, just may, cover right the way along the gap at the top and level it up. So let's find out. I've been on a craft group on Facebook, and it was interesting. Now, some people are talking and saying, I get really crippled by worrying that I'm not going to be doing the craft right. And I always say, just enjoy the fun of the journey. It's the process is the fun bit. And if you get it wrong, then that means you've learned something. And I think that is a big holdback for lots of people. They're thinking, oh, I could never do that. Even an easy craft, they're just too nervous to start. So my advice to you, if you're watching me and you think, oh, I don't mind watching, but I'm not doing it, why don't you give it a try? It is amazing just how much you learn with every mistake, and sometimes you're pleasantly surprised and you don't make any mistakes. And then the more you do it, the less mistakes you make. And even now, I make mistakes, and I think a lot of professional crafters do. It's just something you learn to live with, have a laugh at, and if the worst comes to worst, cover it with something. It's amazing what you can cover. Right, and now I'm going to use this lace. I don't know if this one's going to be quite as nice. I can't even get that backing off. There we go. I'm going to come the other way with this lace. Oh, yes, I'm really liking the look. I wasn't sure whether to put ribbon, or at first I thought perhaps a bit of washi tape just on the sides of the board, but I think this is the best solution. And the only other lace I had, which was this narrow and would have looked good, was nylon, and I really don't want to put nylon on something that's as vintage looking as this. I think it would spoil it. Turn it around there. And of course you don't have to use this in, if I show you there, that is portrait. No, that is landscape, that is portrait. When you think you see a portrait of somebody, it's a long ways like that. But I've done it landscape because I just think it'll be nicer. It gives a longer run of the lace. Come down with this, and then I think I may have to add a little bit more Mod Podge. No, it's sticking now. All the way down the edge. It covers the edges, neatens them off. It just makes it look like more of a finished product. And I think that both of these crafts are quite high-end. They're almost like a high-end dupe for something like, oh, I don't know, Hobby Lobby, is it? Or Pottery Barn, things like that. All the posh shops. Because you see something like this, and they charge amazing amounts for it. And if you can't craft, then fair enough. You may decide that you're happy with that. But I always like to have crafts around that didn't cost me quite so much. Now, I think that's lovely as it is. Just purely as an example of lace making. But I thought, shall I put some embellishments on? And I'm torn. Now, I've got this buckle. I love this buckle. Can you see it? It says made in England on there. And I think it's plastic. You can see like the moulding marks and things like that on it. I think it's supposed to look like old bone. And I thought I could put some things on here or not. I've got this lovely old-fashioned button. I think it's probably from the 1920s, so it may be a bit modern. And let's have a look what else I got. I've got some of these brown buttons. I thought perhaps, I'm not going to leave all this on. I'm just showing you some of my thoughts, so you can see my thought process. Something like that. I've got these lovely dolly pegs. I think they look nice as well. I suppose there's always a chance it would look good. Just put in a display along the middle. Oh, now I'm starting to think. Whoops, sorry about that. I've just dropped my brush. I've got this, which is a little piece I cut off my last craft and then put a bit more gold on. No, that's a bit tacky, isn't it? No, don't want that. And I've got some cream buttons. Let's have a look. Oh, they're a nice colour. Put those buttons over there. Don't think I like the colour on those. So if we just put a row of them up there, like that. Now what do we do? Oh, 1 minute, I just looked to the side of me and I do have a white rose. I'll try taking this off here. Oop, like that. I'm still not convinced. I'm not, and I want to be convinced to embellish it. At least put a bow on it, but I don't think it's going to work. So I'm going to call this piece done. So what do you think? Do you think that's done for you, or would you put something more on? I can see how maybe some buttons down there would be a good idea. Just to do something, because this is very pale. But then again, is that part of the charm? No, that's it. Decision made. Oh, let me just show you this. I got a heart. Now that would look lovely too, especially if I get one of my little flower heads off here and pop that at the top there. Oh, look at that. I puffed away. Oh, blew my flower away. I'm going to stop. I'm going to leave it at that. Call it done. And let me know in the comments. Have I stopped too soon, or is this perfect for you? For me, I think that is perfect. Well, thank you ever so much for watching. I thoroughly enjoyed this video. I'm completely confused. I don't know which is my favourite. They're so different. Which one would you choose? I really have no idea. If somebody said, definitely one or the other, you must make the decision, I don't think I could make it. I think of this one, I think, oh, I love this one. Then I think of the coloured, deep coloured one, and I think of that one. So, no, jury's out. I don't know which is my favourite, but I would love to know if you think that these are the sort of things you've seen, because I don't get to see the American high-end shops. I see a few over here, and I think that looks very much like the sort of thing that's coming in quite a lot of them. And also, the first one I did too. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe before you go, because there are lots more videos coming along, and I'm not usually this indecisive at the end. Honestly, if you're new to the channel, I'm not usually this bad, but this one has me stumped. I just love it as it is. Right, I'll see you all next time, but until then, don't forget, happy crafting and have fun. Bye!